Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us on today's webinar. I hope you're all well. I'm the host, Rosie Tanner, and I work in the marketing department at TELCO. I'm joined with Neil Whitelock from Sippio, who will be our presenter for the event. So before we begin, if you do have any questions during this presentation, please put them in the questions box in the control panel area, and we'll happily answer them towards the end of the presentation. So let's get started with Explore Voice and Telephony through Microsoft Teams.
Rosie, first of all, thank you. Can I just check that everybody can see the screen before we kick off?
Yeah, you can see your
Perfect.
slides. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. So first of all, welcome. Thank you for joining. We'd love to, over the next 10-15 minutes, first of all, share some insights with you around the voice enablement in Microsoft Teams, what we're seeing in the way of market trend, more importantly, what it can mean for end users, whether they be SME, mid-market or enterprise clients. And as importantly, as we go through this, we'll share insights around the Sippio solution. So with that in mind, we would also love to take some questions from you. Rosie will kindly collate anything that comes through the chat. We already have some questions in from some attendees, but feel free to raise questions either as we go or towards the end of the session. First and foremost, if you look at the current environment that we're all operating in, there's been material changes in the last 15 to 18 months. And what was a journey that was already underway as people were looking at how technology could augment the business, their business, and more importantly, how you operate with your clients. That was obviously amplified and accelerated by the environment we've had to work in and adapt to over those last 15 months. Now, I think it's fair to say as we move into the next cycle, many organizations that we talk to are referencing, let's say, hybrid working, the ability to get people back into the office where it's beneficial, the ability to also maintain that that enablement of home working or mobile working. And I'm just sharing a couple of slides around Marketplace and Sippio to sort of set the scene. Firstly, as an organization that is working ourselves very closely with Microsoft, we take guidance from Microsoft. More importantly, we take guidance from existing and new clients. So we're always open to discussions. That's ultimately what drives innovation as we look to respond to market demand. And as we'll share with you, again, our objective today is to share these insights and possibly create some thoughts and information that help you with that next stage of decision making for your good selves. Now, if we look at how the telecoms market has evolved in the last few years, look at the journey on the screen. Traditionally, organizations would move from what we would classify as an on-premise telephony environment, a traditional box in the basement, handsets that are wired in, annual contracts, annual upgrades. That was already moving into what was classified as, let's say, voice over internet or VoIP or telephony on a SaaS basis. We've put some names of suppliers in there. There's many more, but clearly, that was the logical and pragmatic journey clients were making up until around 2017, 2018. Then two things happened. Firstly, collaboration as an environment was becoming stronger, whether it be a Slack or Google. Obviously, today we focus on Microsoft Teams, but organizations were beginning to work out how to best enable their workforce to operate. People were referring to and still refer to that single pane of glass. Now, two things have happened, obviously, in the last 18 months. Firstly, organizations are basically moving from the left-hand side of this screen to the right-hand side. Many are just leapfrogging that logical step into the voice telephony, and the environment we've worked in has driven and accelerated the move towards a collaboration platform being that single pane of glass. And I guess the question is why? Well, ultimately, again, in talking to clients, it's become very obvious that providing a common platform is important. Providing a platform that can be operated from anywhere is critical. And giving people the same experience obviously makes for ease of use and ease of adoption. Now, if you look at obviously Microsoft Teams, fundamentally it's a collaboration platform. But obviously, as that platform becomes stronger, as the ecosystem grows, you find there's more applications in there, there's more availability to connect with that. And then it brings additional layers of value, such as workflows, and as we talked today, around the telephony. So leveraging that same platform and enabling you to leverage your investment in Microsoft to potentially step away from legacy technology that may not be particularly viable this day and age, and move into that single pane of glass that gives you the benefit for collaboration in the team, for your teams, workflows, additives, but most importantly, the calling. So the ability to make telephone calls from Microsoft Teams. Now, again, Microsoft is very good at publishing numbers. The data is robust. It's published in their quarterly reports. And you'd probably often hear people talking about the number of daily active users in Microsoft or in Teams. And you find, obviously, there's a sort of a big corporate race now between the Zooms of this world and the Teams of this world. But there's clearly the two leaders in that marketplace of providing enablement and communication across any size of organization. But the number I wanted to share with you today to put your minds at rest is the one in the middle. There's still around 30,000 organizations a month joining Microsoft Teams. And again, that's part of their journey from on-prem email to Office 365 to M365 to Teams. It's the number behind that that's of real interest. As organizations are adopting Microsoft Teams, they are talking to Microsoft and telling Microsoft, but also people like Gartner, that fundamentally their historical legacy telephony systems are not fit for purpose. Now, that's standing at around 80% plus of those organizations coming into Teams are recognizing that something needs to happen in the world of their telephony in order that they can be future-proof. So, by joining the call today, clearly you've showed a little interest in, what is voice enablement in Teams. As we move into sort of the next few slides, we'll share details around how we enable that. But the message to sort of finish on this slide is you're in good company. There's a lot of organizations looking at this. It's probably the fastest growing communication platform now. And for what it's worth, if people are interested in Gartner and other sort of reputable references, Microsoft has moved from challenger in 2017, 2018 to leader as far as Gartner are concerned with regard to unified communications and collaboration as at October, November last year. So again, that's, if nothing else, a good reference point with regard to the investment Microsoft has made in that technology and how it is viewed by, let's say the esteemed analysts in the technology world. So moving on to Sippio, what is it? Who are we? As an organization, we are a global carrier. We offer a tier 1 quality of service across 60 countries. And I choose those words carefully because it's relatively easy to set up a carrier service, but we very much focus on 3 or 4 key attributes which become important as we walk through this. So we're a global carrier that provides the ability to enable voice, so PSTN calling, telephony calling into Microsoft Teams. So I've got 2 slides here that are really critical to the message. The first is the type of challenges we've been set by customers over the last 15, 18 months. Firstly, make it easy and quick to adapt, to onboard and enable. Secondly, the ability for the contract to scale up and down. So we actually go beyond that because our platform is built globally. We're across 8 Azure regions, and by default, we are hosted in that Azure region, so we connect directly into the Microsoft tenants, therefore offering end-to-end security. So there's a technology benefit, but as it's a platform that is ready for use, ready for consumption, and can scale up or down, it enables us to say, look, the commercials can be flexible. So should you need to add users very quickly, you can do that. Should you want to take users off, we have the ability to do that very quickly. We're not an organization that sort of fundamentally wants to tie you up in a 5-year contract that is fixed and rigid. By design, we're a SaaS organization. We recognize how organizations are focusing on transformation and digital transformation, and paying for use is important. So we are advocates of that and ensure that flexibility is there. As far as the application itself, we talk openly of no code, no build. This is ready for consumption, built Our smallest client is currently 5 seats. Our biggest client is 50,000 seats, and they're migrating on over 12 months this year. So again, by default, ready for consumption. No need for your good sales as end users to worry about ordering component parts. It is there, with ease of access and with the support of the Italic team to take you through that implementation, that onboarding, and various levels of support should you need it. Anything from voice support right through to a managed service, and again, those options can be discussed after this call. We focus by default on the voice component of the Microsoft world. The desktop, in the eyes of Microsoft, is a very very broad word. It's modern workplace. It's how people operate. We remain focused on where we're good, which is the voice component. As an organization, we have a mix of people from the telephony world, but also the Microsoft world. So internally, that enables us to sort of challenge each other from both sides as this technology now begins to ultimately consolidate. It's always been IT and separately telecoms, but now through these collaboration environments, it becomes one. So by default, our focus very much on voice, both providing that as a service, in the way that this is built, as I suggested, but more importantly, how we support yourselves, through the partners. And we also recognise that whatever the start point, there could be various migration or steps to take. Anything from integrating some analog devices because you need a door entry system, or possibly there's still a fax machine in the business, or maybe it's a manufacturing organization that has copper wire still in sort of workshops. Whilst analog and digital by design is evolving and people are moving to digital, we can support and enable those integrations so that you have a smooth transition. Most organizations are moving away from legacy PBX, again, deemed by many as not fit for purpose. Should there be a requirement for whatever reason that PBX has to stay on site, and we sometimes see this in education, in healthcare, then again, we have the ability to enable digital environments for those that can use the digital, so operate out of Teams, make calls out of Teams. But again, should you need phones on walls for a classroom, for a healthcare environment, or something similar, again, happy to run that process with you, understand the needs, and provide best advice and outcomes. And as we are now seeing, because Microsoft's roadmap is beginning to increase with regard to moving away from Skype, again, should you have questions about how that can be achieved, I know Rosie, Max, and the team are ready and prepared to sort of work with you through that current environment, how to transition into the new world of Teams. But again, we can support that journey. It's a very common journey now, and a well-trodden path and well-documented path. Now, that's again the challenges we've been set. Quick activations, ease of use, low cost of entry. Keep it focused on the voice piece, because that's important to everybody and how you communicate with your clients and beyond. And again, enabling that that journey to take effect. If we sort of follow the next slide to sort of replay that, but from the other side. So actually, what is Sippio? This is effectively the closest we'll get to sort of a technical data at this stage. We could obviously go a lot deeper if you wish to have a follow-up call and get into the detail. But if I were to deliver something, to summarize ultimately what is Sippio, it is again a global carrier service that enables voice or PSTN calling natively in Microsoft Teams. It is bringing to life the dial pad in Teams. It is not a third-party application. It is not going to pull the calling or the collaboration out of Teams. By design, we are augmenting and amplifying the value of Microsoft Teams for you. And that again, brings extra benefit around that productivity, that common environment for your team, and again, enabling you to drive further return on investment out of your investment dollars in that Microsoft ecosystem. To complement that carrier service, again, it's ready for consumption, so you don't need to worry about managing, monitoring, ordering component parts. It's built, ready for service, and again, very happy to get into deeper conversations around how it's built if needed on separate calls. We do invest heavily in tools and automation, and I've got one other slide just to share with you to give you some context around how that enables smooth implementation, onboarding and management of your teams and personnel and colleagues in this environment, and gives you the ability to make subtle changes real time, or call an Italic for that help. But again, removing the need for that traditional engineer to be on site to change a phone or to change wiring. Again, we're trying to automate and empower as much as we can in this environment. For those of you that may have either international calling requirements, well, again, we are an international and global carrier, so we can enable you to call or take a call from anywhere in the world. Should you have customers, or more importantly, colleagues that operate out of different countries, we have coverage in 60 countries. And by that, we can provide you with PSTN replacement services for your colleagues in up to, in fact, more than 60 countries now across the world. And that is a growing list. Many of our global clients are pushing us to now open up other and further territories around APAC and Latin America. So again, that's a constant evolving model as collaboration and communication becomes so important now for organizations in the next phase of their transformation. As we've mentioned, many ways to migrate to this environment and from either traditional PBX or Skype or other environments. And again, rather than go into every single one of those on this call, we'd be delighted to support some discovery calls and some initial discussions with yourselves following this call to again, with the Italic team, understand what you have and help you, consider ways to move quickly and efficiently into this environment. And again, commercially, providing flexibility across the platform, but also, commercially, so that you have the ability to move users numbers up and down according to your business needs. Okay, automation. For those of a technical mind, if I were to mention the name PowerShell, some of you would recognize that's clearly what's required to do most things inside of Microsoft. We recognize that's a very logical process, but also one that can be time consuming. So we have a range of tools and automation. I just want to share one of those today in this initial call. This is the Sippio panel. Now, this is a tool and an application that is approved and reviewed by Microsoft. It is something you can download from the App Source store, which is effectively the Teams App Store. You connect it straight into your Teams environment, and it provides two of augmentation. First, at admin level in setting up and then managing the environment, and then secondly to your users and colleagues, because we want to make sure that once taking on board an application, it gets used and adopted as quickly and as easily as possible. So 3 or 4 layers here, and we do have videos that we can share with you. They're about 5 minutes long that actually take you through this real time. It only takes literally 3 to 4 minutes for this tool to do the work. And again, we can share that link with anybody afterwards. Just let Rosie or myself know. But fundamentally, there's 3 levels. There's connecting the tenant to our environment, which is the first step. You'd see that on the video. There is then connecting to our global infrastructure. So this is across the 8 Azure regions in the world. 2 things happen here. Firstly, we'd always recommend pushing the calls out to a local region. So we're talking UK today. So that would go out through UK South. You take the calls inbound through UK South. But if you did have colleagues in the US or in APAC or in South Africa, then we could align their call policies to actually push the call from that local region. So it's giving you local tolerances, improved quality of service, but also this is where you get the high availability. Because if one of the Microsoft Azure regions were to fail, we can automatically fail over to the other 4 or 5 regions. In fact, we can run this globally out of 1 region. But again, it is hosted in 6 primary and 2 secondary regions. So you've got full global redundancy, high availability, but also quality of service by pushing the calls out through local regions. Lastly, and this is where most of the magic happens, because this is where it removes or sort of supersedes PowerShell scripting. This is where you can upload the users, more importantly, assign the numbers, either the direct dial numbers that you've asked us to port, or we can provide new numbers, and that's where your users are basically brought into the platform. And from here, you can manage them. So again, assigning call policies, maybe somebody moves to the US or to another country, you can give them a new number, take them off the environment, put new people on the environment. Again, I would certainly advocate taking a look at that video, and we're more than happy to push that out to you after this call. Now, just to take a step back, as an organization, I mentioned there porting. Ultimately, we will provide everything in the way of that onboarding service with you and alongside the Italic team. So upon ordering confirmation, we will then work with your existing environment, help you move the numbers across. We'll do that porting and that management with the Italic team, bring this environment to life so that it's ready for consumption, ready for use. And then the final piece is the adoption. So in here, and again, in the same YouTube site we have where our video for this panel is based, you can also see the knowledge videos we have in here. So there's 2 layers for the administrator. There's things around how to set up or add call queues, and again, anything that we might not set up day one with you or for you, you can then take and do in-house if you like, or the Italic team can support you with that. But even more importantly is there's very short videos for the users about how to make a call, how to set up a voicemail, how to forward a call. Basic stuff, but again, helping with the adoption of this service. And we recognize that sometimes change can cause uncertainty. So we're, again, very focused on that enablement piece to make sure not only can the application and platform be installed and up and running very quickly and easily, but your users benefit from it. I'm going to pause there for a moment. And Rosie, is there any questions at this stage?
I'll just have a look, just bear with me. Yeah, so we've got a couple of questions in there. First one, how quickly can Sippio be set up?
As you'll see from the video, it can be actually set up in about 5–10 minutes. There's about 15 minutes worth of prerequisite work just to prepare the tenant, which we ask is done the day before. And that's just really so that the Microsoft backend can be up to speed and ready, because we know that can take anything from an hour to a little longer, depending on how much Teams is being used. And we've just seen that sort of capacity over the last 15 months. But fundamentally, it can be set up that quickly. Certainly, if a customer would want and is happy to take new numbers, if somebody wants to transfer existing numbers, maybe reception numbers or DDIs that people have, again, we'll manage that service as part of this overall platform. That can be 5 to 20 working days. It just depends how quickly those numbers can be ported from an existing carrier. But again, we'd work closely with your colleagues in project management and our project management and pre-sales team and deliver that as a service back out to the clients.
Great. And another one, can you provide call recording and call transcription?
Yeah, so this is one of the benefits. Everything we do and operate is natively integrating into Teams. That's the key thing here. It's using Microsoft Teams as that core engine. So our calling is going into Teams and we're using the phone system. You get the benefit of using the dial pad and everything that comes from that in that single pane of glass. We partner, as you guys do, with other organizations. So whether it be call recording, call transcription, call reporting, there are various additives that can now be brought in, for all users or for a smaller subset of users for call recording. And we have a lot of clients with help desk where those calls want to be recorded for training purposes. We have also an equal number of organizations in that regulated market where it has to be recorded. So financial services, insurance is a great example, where it has to be recorded. And normally now across all modalities, so voice, screen, SMS, and video. And then retained for 7 years. So absolutely, those services are available, along with advanced call queues, advanced reporting, depending on the need for the clients. And again, I think that's just a sure sign of the investment dollars going in from Microsoft, but also other companies like us, recognizing how many people are moving into this environment, and very quickly. So yeah, the answer in summary, absolutely.
Brilliant. And the last question, what do you see as the 3 biggest benefits of voice enabling Microsoft Teams?
I've touched on them during the call, but ultimately this is enabling organizations firstly to operate in that hybrid manner. So the ability to work in the office, to work from home, to work from a mobile environment, without being beholden on legacy technology that is sort of attached to a desk. From a productivity perspective, it depends where organizations are and how that sort of sits as an order of priority, but it does give that ability to offer a common platform for all workforce, all users, which in turn drives an element of productivity, but greater experience for users because they're using one single pane of glass for all engagement, whether that's internal or making calls to external clients. And finally, we recognise that people make a considerable investment into Microsoft to varying degrees, and this is just another way to sort of accelerate that return, because you're just adding to an already existing environment rather than buying a separate phone system that needs separate management, separate costs, etc., etc. So that would be the three sort of headline responses to that question, Rosie.
Great. That's all we've got, Neil.
Okay, no other questions at the moment? One thing I would just like to leave, and I know it's on a later slide, which you'll publish this anyway. One thing for food for thought for those attending is if somebody would like to consider a trial activation, I would suggest they reach out to the Italic team. Again, it's something we advocate because, one, this is easy to set up, and two, we do recognise that trying something is always a good experience and a better way of helping to make the decision rather than just looking at data sheets and the traditional way of buying technology in that respect. So again, happy to help you guys if anybody wants to look at a trial to work through that process. So thank you, Rosie.
Yeah, so if you are interested in trialing Microsoft Teams Voice with us and Sippio, just send us an email to info@italic.co.uk and we can discuss the necessary requirements needed and the next steps from there. There is a short survey at the end of the webinar, which should only just take a couple of minutes to complete, and we just really appreciate your feedback. So thanks everyone, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks everybody. Have a great day.